Sí, ya está preparando la transmisión. Ahorita voy a iniciar el seminario, ¿ya?
Listo.
Ujú.
Ya le puse estar. ¿No entran o qué? Mm,
Le pongo yo iniciar.
listo.
Webinar live.
Can I begin? Hi, Venus.
Doctora Yuri, buenos días, ¿cómo está?
Buenos dias, como está? Eu ia lhe perguntar, tudo bom?
Tuvimos unos problemas técnicos.
Sim, eu percebi. Eu ia lhe perguntar se eu poderia falar em português ou você quer que eu apresente em inglês? Eu fiz os slides todos em inglês, então eu acho que é possível todo mundo ler, mas eu posso falar em português. Talvez, não sei, você que me diz. Se você quiser, apresento em inglês, mas fica mais confortável. Buenos dias.
Yo entiendo portugués, pero no sé.
Eu
Vamos a ver.
apresento em inglês, sem problema.
Ajá, ok.
Ok. Um prazer em conhecer. It's a
Ajá.
pleasure to meet you.
Sí, está inglés mejor, dice la
Yeah,
mayoría.
okay. It's okay. My English is not so good, but I can communicate you.
It's well. Ok, entonces no sé si podemos dar inicio en este momento.
Sí, buenos días.
Gracias.
Buenos días. Bueno, mil disculpas por los problemas técnicos. Vamos a dar inicio. Primeramente, bienvenidos al tercer Congreso Internacional de Nuevas Tecnologías y Sistemas de la Información con énfasis en la salud. Nuestro principal objetivo es buscar y fomentar la cooperación e integración internacional en torno a temas de interés mundial y de gran vigencia y trascendencia como son los sistemas inteligentes, las nuevas tecnologías y las tendencias interdisciplinares en salud. A continuación, Venus nos va a presentar a nuestra primera conferencista. Sean todos bienvenidos y un buen día.
Bueno, muy buenos días. Para mí es un placer, un honor presentar a la doctora Yuri. La doctora Yuri Ichiara va a presentar el día de hoy el uso de Big Data para evaluar el impacto de los programas de protección social en la salud. La doctora es graduada en Medicina por la Universidad Federal de Pará. Tiene una maestría en salud comunitaria, doctorado en salud pública por el Instituto de Salud Pública de la Universidad Federal de Bahía. Fue directora general del Departamento de Salud Estado de Bahía. Ha sido profesora colaboradora del programa de posgrado desde 2015 e investigadora colaboradora del Instituto de Salud Pública desde el año 1998. Participó en investigaciones prioritarias del Sistema Único de Salud y de interés para la vigilancia sanitaria en el Ministerio de Salud. Actualmente es vicecoordinadora del Centro de Integración de Datos y Conocimiento para la Salud, SIDAX. Adelante, doctora. Un gusto tenerla acá con nosotros.
Okay. I will share with you my presentation. Thank you, Venus. Let me see if, okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, to be invited for you to share with all of you our experience at SIDAX in the use of big data to evaluate the impact of social programs on health, the SIDAX experience. I will present some talks about the challenges for the health science. At the moment, big data in the data ecosystem on health, challenges of using big data on health, use of administrative data in Brazil in research, integrated data platforms of SIDAX, epidemiological cohorts and projects that we are developing, carrying out. So first of all, we have to think about what is happening with the health science. So major challenges we have in the context. If you see the pandemic of COVID-19, we see that we have a lot of challenges to deal with the health. So we have a complex network, and the COVID-19 is an example of a lot of determinants in the occurrence of disease. We have multifactorial and multisystemic determinants, and we have to think about what is happening with all the problems on health and in the public health, like emerging diseases like COVID-19, the pandemic, epidemics like Zika, like dengue, like other epidemics, and the aging of the population, chronic diseases that is straight related with the style of life, climate change, disasters, and the effects, how you can evaluate the effects of policies and the programs. We have a gold standard, how to conduct and carve out researchers to evaluate determinants, evaluate politics, interventions, and that we call randomized community trials, but they are in general costly and time-consuming designs, and we have a lot of loss of participants. On the other hand, we have major challenges because of the fourth industrial era, because of we have growth of production, use of data within and outside the scientific area, promoting some use of large databases, a lot of intensive use of large databases, sophisticated computational algorithms, and the modeling to generate knowledge. We have, everybody knows that now in the pandemic COVID-19, because of we don't have good information about the pandemic, we have to use some modeling, mathematical modeling, to predict the cases, to predict the occurrence of hospitalization and the deaths, and it is a great challenge to do this, and this and then necessary to develop the algorithm and the modeling. And so it is conforming now a data-driven science that has been used to explore questions and answer the specific problems on health and the other areas of the humanity science. So we can say that we have a big data on health. It's a growth of healthcare data in all of the areas, but in the healthcare data, we have seen, as we see in this chart, we have a growth from more than 100.5 exabytes of data to 2,000 data in 2010. And so it's a great velocity of data. That's one of the characteristics of big data. And for the data health ecosystem, we have been aggregated more and more data, not only laboratory test results, diagnostic images, medical records, public health registry, but even include another data like genome sequence, electronic health records, and different health determinants, climate, and the other data, social media, and now in this Congress that you is discussing about new technologies and how innovation can be added to deal with the data in the development of this area, we see that there is a great opportunity for the use of big data in health research, focusing in prevention, diagnostics, precision medicine, evaluate policies and the programs. But it is not easy to do this. There are a lot of challenges for using big data on health, like the access to data. Now we have, if you want to identify the data, we have some protection for commercial, cultural reasons, privacy, personal privacy. We have now in Brazil a framework of a regulatory framework that has been applied to our institutions and our research, and we have to add until the next year. And it's a great challenge to do the researchers, and even when we are using aggregated data. The data is fragmented, as multiple databases, multiple owners, and every data has a one owner, like live birth as mortality and the hospitalization. Some stakeholders has the owner of this database, and sometimes it is not easy to have this data. Also, we have a data heterogeneity in precision, in format. This is a challenge to manipulate. It's have a lot of difficulty to manipulate big data, and with different structures, with different formats, and even with different data quality. And so we have to think about, and now is growing in SIDACs in Brazil, and I know that in Europe we have this European and Latin America movement to create ontologies to have a common model of data, to have more interoperability, and to be capable to share the data and to advance in open data and science, open science. And so for this, adding all these challenges, we have development of that data linkage algorithms that it's very important to develop it, because of to know which variable is identified, a common identified information, and to linkage all the databases. And in other hand, as I said, we have it to follow privacy and data integrity, to prevent attacks and uncertainty in the methods of the identification, anonymization, and even to follow ethical standards. Other challenges about the technological developments, because all this big N or big data, we have to manage in an environment with a high performance computational resource, that as we use the identified data, we have to have a high level of security and privacy, physical and virtual security to manage this data. Also use tools capable of storing, processing, preserve a large amount of data, and a lot of tools and has been developing to deal with this kind of data. I remember that I focusing on structured data, but we have to think about all the unstructured data that we not using in SIDACs, but it's very important for some researchers using media, social media, and internet, and some unstructured data. And so we have to think about how to manage it, to obtain, to preserve, to store it, to update this data, to have data ready to answer questions about problems, health problems. And about of that, we think that digital curation is important to develop in the institutions to deal with this data. Thinking about how to use this big data on health, we think that methodologies, how to use this data and how to analyze this data is not easy because it has to be in high speed. We have to develop some technical methods and the technical approach like machine learning, data reduction, like propensity score matching, main components, and then to think how to can reduce this big N and to analyze in a properly in a computational resource and using some kind of analysis that you can have the analysis properly used. And the more complex statistical analysis, so you have considering these large samples. But even when we think about that is a big N in the large samples, we have to think that although we don't have representativeness, statistical significance for all these variables that you are analyzing. Even when we have statistical significance, we think that it's because we have a big N, not because it is some association and the kind of significance of this association for the analysis that we have carried out. So we have some data for research evaluation. I think you know about that. We have experimental data that is collected for investigation for a proposed fixed hypothesis. Usually we have these samples are small in size because it will be very costly if you think about a large size. Usually we have this is data. We can't have a big form to have a large variables, bigger variables to analyze. And we have some population, all the population, all our sample. And I will compare with administrative data that they are not collected for research purposes. It can be very large and complex because we have, if you see about hospitalization, you have a lot of data, repeated information for one patient. And so it's a very complex data to deal. And sometimes they are not so systematic. They can be, we have some string, we have some data, we have some names, and it's not so systematic for use. And it can be difficult to manage this data. And so I think it's important to know that this population is very large and we don't know who they are. And so sometimes it's very difficult to analyze this data because we have some multidimensional information. And so we focusing on the uses of administrative collected data in public health. We know that they are collected for these different purposes, mainly for policy making in monitoring events like programs, surveillance, official registers, death and births, and auditing like hospitalization. And we have been using this data, individual identified data and aggregated data for surveillance, health situation analysis, some ecological studies evaluating some policies using this aggregated level. But we have a lot of benefits, like to get information that is not available in official surveys. Full population files are generally available that we not have sometimes in experimental analysis design. It's because of that we can have cost savings on research, and we can do a better utilization of the information produced. We have a lot of information in our institutions that can be used to analyze the situation on health. But the challenges are the quality, the accuracy, the representativeness, this heterogeneity, data structure that can change over time, and as I said, different data owners. In Brazil, we have some traditional experience consolidated experience to use the administrative data to assess the impact of programs on health. I showed to you some studies that was led by Mauricio Barreto, who is the coordinator of SIDACS. And we have these effects of a conditional cash transfer program on child mortality, on primary health care, and violence and tuberculosis. And it's very, very robust results that make us sure that we can use this data for purpose of research, as I show you. Because of that, we think that it's very important to create an integrated data platform in SIDACS using government administrative data that is processed, linked, and results in data sets ready to answer to scientific health problems. Here we can see the conception of our data platform. We have 3 layers in data creation, data production, and data access. And all of this environment is protected by ethics, privacy, and security. This kind of conception promotes a faster scientific production in health that can produce research and evidences at low cost. It has the potential to have a decisive impact on health interventions and public social policies, and enable all of us to establish a collaborative research network following the procedures and the rules for access and use of SIDACS. So the SIDACS, I talk about some fast information about the SIDACS. It was launched in December of 2017 as a unit of Fiocruz Bahia. We have an article published at International Journal of Population Data Science, who is curious about to have more information about SIDACS can access this public article. And we have all the details about the data you have and how you do the conception and of the platform, and how is the procedures and all of the details about SIDACS. We operate in an environment with high performance computing resources, security and privacy procedures. SIDACS is responsible for conducting studies and research, developing new investigative methodologies, and promote professional and scientific training based on interdisciplinarity projects that involve the integration of large databases, big data. all SIDACs, it is in compliance with the Personal Data Protection Law, referring to Article 13, that allows all the research institutions to use personal data for research, since that it can be managed at an environment protected with the security and ethical and privacy of the personal data. I don't know if I have to answer some, because someone have raised the hand. Can I continue? So SIDAC's data center structure, we have some physical structure in two areas. One area that we have computational resources of high performances, like called Omolu in the High Performance Computer Center of Senai Cimatec. And we have another safety room at a techno center, that is an area where we have a safety room connected by a dedicated line with the Omolu, where all the identified data is preserved. And from this data security room, we can have authorized researchers to ask about some data sets that can answer all the questions that they are looking for. And so all our management of the administrative data is to create epidemiological cohort design. And I think I don't know if here we have epidemiologists, but we have this kind of design called cohort, and that is characterized by a sample from a healthy population, and we choose this population, select this population, and we follow for some time, and we see if they have exposure or not exposure, and in this group, exposure and not, we can see if the disease or the outcomes is occurring. And so we can compare all these occurrences, and you can see if you have some risk is associated with the exposure. This disease is associated with exposure. And so is that our design. And to do that, as we work with data administrative, not with data collected directly by some application of forms to the population of the baseline of the cohort, we have to develop some algorithm to do the data linkage. And so we developed two algorithms, SIDACS-RL, that use the index mechanism to improve the search for records. And they use records in between two databases. And for that, you use common identifiers: name, mother's name, sex, date of birth, municipality of residence. And these results of all these linkages, the use of this has high accuracy of you can see in this figure at the left that we have all these lines colored are the accuracy of at this Kilvin rock. And so we know that there are a lot of problems of equality with data, but administrative data is improving in Brazil, and we can we can be secure that we have a good linkage. So this algorithm has high scalability, and the time compute consume is very small, and it can reduce the storage space compared to existing open source linking tools. But it needs a safe environment. On the other hand, we have the Atom that has high precision results, uses blue filter to preserve privacy, presents good scalability using Spark, but it has a high compute consumer, and it is sometimes difficult to use this to manage, to link big data, like the cohort as I showed to you. All these Atomo is published, and you can access this article, and the SIDAX RL has recently been accepted in one magazine. So we have 3 cohorts that I will present to you. The 100 million Brazilians cohort, that is, this cohort aims to use individual record to evaluate the effects of social determinants on health, education, work, and isolated or joint effects of social programs like Bolsa Familia, housing, wells, and the other that we can add in the future. But on health, but also in other outcomes. We can see if, for example, some inequalities can be predicted the education or employability of like adolescents, pregnant adolescents in this population. The 100 billion cohort, Brazilian cohort, was created from the Cadastro Único, that is a unified registry for social programs. This Cadastro Único was created in 2004, and we have these forms. That is, we have a lot of information about social, economics, demographics information, and about the composition of the family, and all the information about the dynamic of the family over time. And this Cadastro Único has the population that is eligible for many social programs, like Bolsa Família, as I said, wells, Minha Casa Minha Vida, housing, and the other programs that we have. Almost 27 programs use this unified registry for select people for the social programs. So from this population that we select from Cadastro Único, the unified registry, we have from 2001 to 2015 about 114 million people, and they are basically low-income families potentially eligible for social protection programs. And to this baseline of population, we link all the social programs by one identified number called social identification number, that is common among the baseline and all the social programs, even the constitutionalities of Bolsa Família program. For all the databases of health, we have to use SIDAX RL because it is it's faster than Atomo, and we have to use, like I said, the 5 attributes like name, mother's name, sex, data, birth data, and the municipality. And so from all these linked data, we have extraction of the specific data set that researcher wants to analyze and to answer the questions they want. And so these data are extracted, anonymized. We are in process of developing this process of anonymization, and the researcher can use it at the identified data at the environment of SIDAX, as SIDAX has a controlled access of data sets. And almost more than 30 projects has been carried out about infectious disease, mortality under 5, prematurity, low birth weight, homicide, suicide, and so on. Another cohort that we have created is the birth cohort, that is an extraction from the linkage of the baseline of 100 million cohort and the live birth from SINASC. There's a system of birth. And from this linkage, we have 24 million of live birth that can be used to link all the other data sets from social programs and from another healthy database. And you can, with this birth cohort, investigate the relationship between social inequalities and the early periods and outcomes for infants, children, adolescents, and mothers. It's a unique opportunity to describe the relations between prenatal events, early development, and to examine key factors that influence child and mother well-being over time. Opa, sorry. I'm sorry. Here. So another cohort, we have a biological cohort that has been created recently. It's not ready, but is a cohort that we have patients registered at primary health care, and that have some medicines, requested some medicines, and it could be important to evaluate the effectiveness and the safety of biological drugs and their biosimilars used to treat rheumatoid arthritis. So it is a dynamic cohort of patients with pathologies and who use the biological drugs and their biosimilars for analysis of safety and the effectiveness. We don't have many researchers being conducted because it's in construction and they don't have some focusing this now. So the potentialities of this cohort is because we have a big N and the longitudinal structure that provides temporal monitoring of outcomes, identification of change in exposure, risk factors, confounding factor over time, assessment of the occurrence of rare events because we have a big N and you don't have loss of participants over time. We can assess the association between exposure and disease, and you can say we can deal with causal inference. We have a great decrease in loss of participants over time, and it is a great opportunity to evaluate policies and programs. Like I said, isolated or jointed. You can see if Minha Casa Minha Vida and housing programs and the Bolsa Família programs separately isolated, the effect isolated, and they combined it's a challenge, it's a great challenge. But in related to statistical analysis, to assess the effect of a social policy, we have to know about causal mechanisms, and so you have to develop all the knowledge how to deal with causal inference, how to explain all the interrelationship between all the factors, all the determinants that are related, associated with the exposure and the outcomes. Because of that, you have to make an extensive description of the data, all the factors related to intervention and outcome. To evaluate the effect of impact, you have to construct a logical model with details of the intervention, allocation process in policy and the program evaluation, to know what is specific intervention or part or component of the intervention that you are evaluating, and which of parts of the outcome we have the impact. Also, we have to think about the time-dependent intervention. Bolsa Familia varies along the time, over the time, and so we have to know about that. Eligibility criteria vary over time. Exposure time varies over time, and we have even a possibility of change between intervention groups and exposure in the not exposure group. And so we can have some misclassification about how to select intervention group and not intervention group. Even we have to come to deal with confounding variables that can be time dependent, like education. If all the people who has Bolsa Familia is beneficiary of Bolsa Familia is stimulated to to go to school and to go to healthy services, and so it can be changed over the time if someone is beneficiary for a long time. The scholarity can change, the health can change because of the intervention and the kind of outcome. And we can be very careful about all the unobserved variables, because we can choose, because of that, appropriate methods of analysis. If you can use property score matching, regression to continuum design, the difference and the difference, instrumental variables, and so on. So it's a lot of challenges. Oh, sorry, very sorry. I'm very, okay.
Sí, si podemos ir concluyendo con la exposición, por favor. Estamos sobre el tiempo.
Sorry, to conclude?
Sí, por favor.
Okay, so the researchers we have is some socioeconomic determinants about leprosy that we use the 100 million cohort. We have some use to research, some research about low birth weight and to use in the 100 million cohort. And I show you some effect of conditional cash transfer program on leprosy treatment adherence and the cure. We using this 100 million cohort, and as I said, the use of property score matching. And you see that receiving the Bolsa Familia program before the diagnosis of leprosy generally improves treatment adherence, and this effect was more evident among Bolsa Familia beneficiaries who presented the multibacillar form adherence more than the paucibacillars. We have results about the impact of conditional cash transfer program on the mortality of children aged 1 to 4 years. And we have evidence that Bolsa Familia program can reduce mortality in children aged 1 to 4 years. And the effect was higher in the poorest municipalities in Brazil, in municipalities with better program management rates, and also in premature children and the children of Black mothers. We have results about impact of Bolsa Familia program in reducing suicide. Suicide rates between beneficiaries and the non-beneficiaries are very different. non-beneficiaries has twice risk than beneficiaries, and suicide rate 61% lower than non-beneficiaries. We have a lot of projects and that are carried out. The impact of Bolsa Família in house, as I said, urbanization in health, study of long-term effects of Zika syndrome, mental health and violence, impact of health primary care on health, and we have some data visualization for monitoring health, essentially for now, the pandemic COVID-19. We have been sharing some data sets, this data set with some researchers that submitted projects in the Grand Challenge Exploration Data Science. We have 5 researchers accessing this data. And we have a lot of challenges, but I will choose. And I think it's only to show you our Brazilian Deprivation Index. I'm sorry, I forgot to translate, but it's a measure of material deprivation for Brasilia in a lower geographic space, census tract, and it's important to construct this index in Brazil because we don't have this measure of inequalities in small areas. And so we think that it could be important to analyze all the inequalities on health and in socioeconomic condition. So, finalizing, to develop a long-term strategic and sustainability plan for a big healthy data ecosystem, we need a legal framework for accessing the use routine data for research, a balance between use and non-use ethics, because we sometimes people say that you cannot access the identified data because it's not allowed, and because of that we cannot use this data for some purpose like ours. To develop governance, data access, sharing in the open, stimulate conceptual and methodological development for the design and analysis of big epidemiological data. And we have a great challenge that is to train new generations of researchers in an interdisciplinary and collaborative model. So, thank you. Sorry if I...
Listo, no hay problema. Justamente porque empezamos un poco tarde, se le dio unos minutos más. Con respecto a las preguntas, en honor al tiempo, vamos a seleccionar 2. Una que está desde el chat que nos pregunta, dice, para María, la tecnología de Big Data, ¿cómo ha contribuido en la solución a problemas en el área de la salud?
Big data, as I said, is using, in our experience, it is using a structured data, and so administrative data. And so we have a great experience in using administrative data. And although we have a lot of challenge to link data, to have this data, to access this data, we show you briefly results about our results, but it's very important to answer questions that is not answered using another data or using data that is collected for research purpose. As I said, if you have a big N, we can have some analysis about rare events. We can use some this information to investigate the conditions of the health of traditional population, like indigenous, like Negroes and the Quilombolas, that we cannot do it in the using collecting data. because it's very, very expensive to do that. And so I think it could be a great impact using this big data. Yeah, we have some times ago we have some people in Brazil that is using image, not diagnostic image, but image for social media to analyze the increasing of Zika epidemic, and it could be seen that it is very, very interesting to use this media to some people um, posting some messages and some images to see that the Zika syndrome was increasing in that time in Brazil. We don't have this experience. I don't have this experience, in SIDAX doesn't have this experience, but if you focus only in administrative data, it's a very, very important. Now I didn't show you, but we are collecting all the administrative data about social, demographic, economic data, aggregated data, to show the inequalities of the impact, the impact of inequalities on the occurrence of the pandemic of COVID-19. And we are using, creating a platform with disaggregated data and with the identified data to link this data and to have a lot of information potentialized for all the information that some data sets for health or not, and we to put it together to develop a knowledge about the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I think it's a big challenge, and I think we have to follow to have research, investigations, and studies using the big data.